Okay, great. So welcome to class this week. And we're continuing on with Rob Preece's book on Psychology of Buddhist Tantra. And this book, this chapter in particular that we'll be looking at is the role of the teacher here. So I'll start with our Heart Sutra. Okay. Homage, perfection, wisdom, the Blessed Mother. Thus I've heard it, that one time the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir, and mass vultures found together a great assembly of monks and nuns and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. That time the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. That time also Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of the great beings, looking perfectly at the practice of profound perfection wisdom. Looking perfectly also the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Then, through the power of Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Spirit Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of the Great Being, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to gauge the practice of profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Spirit Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of the Great Being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to gauge the practice of profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly and correctly also the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is none other than form, form's none other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, this all phenomena are emptiness, having no characteristics. Not produce and do not cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, and no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so forth up to no mentality element, and also up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth up to no aging and death, no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, there's no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, no exalted awareness, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in perfection wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Passing utterly beyond perversity, attain the final nirvana. Also, all Buddhas reside perfectly in the three times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal and unequaled mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of perfection wisdom is proclaimed, Tayatam Gata Gata Paragata Parasam Gati Bodhi Soha. Shariputra Bodhisattva, great beings should train the profound perfection wisdom like this. Then the Blessed One arose in that concentration and said to the Bodhisattva, the great being, that he'd spoken well. Good Guru-san is like that. Since it's like that, just as you revealed in that way, the profound perfection wisdom should be practiced, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra, Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, and the entire circle of disciples, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised by what had been spoken by the Blessed One. Okay, so just taking a moment to relax here, do a short meditation. Let's visualize ourselves seated in a wide open space, surrounded by all sentient beings. So the ground's like lapis lazuli, and let's see here. It's got to select. Okay, ground's like lapis lazuli and smooth to the touch and soft. And above us, we have a beautiful blue sky, cloudless, sort of luminous sky. And ourselves surrounded by all sentient beings meditating together. So our mother on our left, our father on our right, people behind us as support, the people we love the most, and people we have issues with in front of us as objects of our prayers and compassion. And moving outward from there, sort of in concentric rings outwards, just to the limits of our vision here. Feel that people from all over the world, humans, are with us without exception. Those in problems of conflict and war and suffering, in particular, we can have in front of us as objects of our healing and prayers. The whole natural world, so the animal realm, we can just think of all sort of beings from small like insects all the way to big mammals, birds and fishes are here. Countless beings in the spirit world are here, all the different spirit beings from the astral, ethereal, elemental planes, and so forth. Celestial beings, gods and demigods, and beings in lower states of rebirth, hell beings and hungry ghost beings. And so basically a whole sentient being family, we're all here together meditating. Now focusing in front of us in the sky, above us and in front, made out of beautiful blue light, like a sapphire, blue sapphire or blue diamond, is Buddha Shakyamuni's higher Sambhogakaya or angelic form, Conqueror Vajradhara. So we'll just have him just sort of floating in space, even not being on a lotus or lion throne here. So he's got a beautiful blue colored sapphire blue body in lotus position, floating with his arms crossed, and he's holding a bell in his left hand, a diamond scepter of Vajra Dorje in his right. And he wears a crown, has beautiful silks and jewelry. And at his heart is a seed syllable hum, enlightened seed syllable hum, or HUM. You can feel that softly emitting out to the 5 elemental colors, sort of rainbow colors of white, blue, green, yellow, and red. So Conqueror Vajradhara is a synthesis of the 3 jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, as well as the embodiment of all the Buddhas and all of our teachers. So taking refuge from our hearts here, I and all sentient beings to achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings to achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings to achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So in particular, really taking refuge in the Dharma jewel of wisdom realizing emptiness, which is the main path we're on here as Buddhists. Now, setting our intention, whatever we do here, may today and every day, just every moment here, us meditating and studying together, may it be for the awakening or enlightenment of all sentient beings. May we become Buddha, that we lead all sentient beings to Buddhahood. So we're going to say the prayer. Through the virtues we collect by giving and other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving and other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving and other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. So generating the 4 immeasurables, just take a moment just from our hearts to generate love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So again, wanting all beings to be happy, not wanting them to suffer, for them to have this sort of great joy or positive power of nirvana or enlightenment. And now, in our day-to-day lives, have a sort of grounded mind of equanimity, balanced, middle way, warm, open, and friendly towards all beings. Okay, 7 limb practice and make our practice Buddhist. We can just feel again that we're offering prostrations as respect, opening our hearts and making offerings. Sort of the confession, rejoicing, and just sort of being open and accountable for all of our negativities and bad habits, and sort of declare them or sort of stand up and own them and say that we're going to do better. And rejoicing in all the goodness and positive energy in the world and in ourselves, all of our virtues and our love. From our hearts, asking the Buddhas and our teachers to always stay and to always guide us and teach us. And then finally, dedicating just everything that we do. We've got the right motivation of bodhicitta and the right dedication of bodhicitta. Everything we do may be put towards the liberation and enlightenment of all sentient beings. Okay, and lastly, just offering a mandala, sacred universe in our heart. Yes, again, just another offering or opening our hearts in generosity that we receive the blessings and teachings from the Buddhas here. So the ground sprinkled with perfume and spread with flowers, the great mountain, four lands, sun and moon, seen as a Buddha land and offer thus. May all beings enjoy such Buddha lands, such pure lands. We send forth this jeweled mandala at our hearts here as an offering to all holy beings. And with that, we just feel that Conquer Vajradhara starts to sort of shrink and get really small. About the size of a little sunflower seed, or if you want to make it even smaller, like a mustard seed or a sesame seed. It's like a beautiful blue diamond or sapphire piece of lapis in the sky. And then just like a shooting star, except slower, you'll just have him come down to the crown of our head here. And for our central channel, and slowly descend to our hearts. Little jewel, little shining light going down, little blue light into our hearts. And once it goes into our heart, just feel that it dissolves, gets really, really small, and becomes one with us. So his mind and his energy become one with our mind and energy. So all that love, wisdom, and power and compassion go right into us. That we be able to express that. You can just take a moment just to absorb this and sit with this here. Okay. Just coming out of meditation here, just gonna do a little shorter today because there's a lot of material we have to go over in class today. So today, I'd like to talk a little bit about the chapter on the role of the teacher. So I'm not going to say too much. And I've done in the previous Tantra course that we did together on Lama Yeshe, I think there's 2 classes on the role of the guru. So this we could spend the rest of our lives just talking about this one issue. So I don't want this to feel anything that I'm saying exhaustive or the final word on this, because this is just something, this is the heart of the path. This is the whole point of Tantra, and well, the whole point, in the sense that this is the whole, the heart of the structure of the path and how the journey works is our relationship to the teacher. And so there's just so much to say about it. And I've sort of done some preliminary sort of remarks, you could say, in the previous 2 classes there with the Lama Yeshe course. So similarly, I'll just go over again, just the stuff as best I can here in Rob Preece's chapter, which is called The Role of the Teacher. And then I just encourage people to continue to study and to work with this theme, both in their personal practice of Tantra, but also just in, I guess, just even their intellectual mind, studying, working over this and that. But before I start, I just wanted to answer a question, which is, Christine, you're here. You asked a question and an email, and I forgot to answer it. But I think it's such a good question. I'd like to answer it publicly, if that's okay. And it was on one page here. The Rob Preece says, the paragraph, on a more subtle level, we mistakenly believe that our world has intrinsic substance independent of consciousness. When we hold this view of reality, the world, its events, and objects become separate and solid. So, of course, and the question is, what is the Jungian interpretation? Is how does this assist in the integration needed to understand? So, of course, this is the classic ignorant view we have of this of ourselves and our world, which produces samsara, precisely because we think things exist outside of our mind, outside of any relationship to anything else. Dualistically independent of anything, especially when we apply this view to ourselves, we end up in a world of suffering, of course, where it's our self in sort of up and against other people and against the world, this and that. Because of that, we don't see how our mind creates the world. We don't see how karma works, all these kinds of things, and we suffer. So what Tantra in particular teaches us when we're working with Tantra is that everything is a projection of our mind, that we are in a mandala or a sacred universe. Technically, we're in a profane universe right now, which is sort of our samsaric manifestation. And through purification and merit and virtue, we are going to transform this into a pure sacred world. Now, whereas the Jungian aspect for this, so of course, I'm not a Jungian therapist or someone thoroughly trained in Jung. I've just read a lot of books, especially when I was doing my philosophy degree and so forth. But if I look at it in a lot of ways with what Jung was trying to do, I remember watching a video on YouTube, actually, where Noam Chomsky was saying that he wanted, when he was younger, to study Jung because Jung had this idea that what was basically that there was really an unconscious or a world you couldn't get at. Like, and so basically it's kind of like, I'm not sort of saying it's sort of a cartoon version of some kind of an idealism or whatever, but that the mechanisms of the mind weren't knowable. Or you could even argue that the world wasn't knowable, sort of. So why that would be important for Jung is that the focus of transformation, of therapy, of healing is within the projection of your mind, right? So we're not trying to understand, interpret, weigh our journey against some real world or real journey or these kinds of things independent of ourselves. We have to start within our own mind and the projections that matter to us. We have to see that. This is where, even this concept of synchronicity and complexes and all these things come from, which is so wonderful. So I would argue that basically, just like when we see the object of negation in Buddhism, that we see that, I'm thinking that things exist independent of our mind, independent of any relationship to anything else. This is what we want to negate or prove is wrong. This is the source of our suffering, this mistaken view. And this, by getting rid of that view, we end up it puts us within our own mind and our own life that we're responsible for. And it puts us in a position where we can transform our life, take responsibility for it, and so forth. I think it's the same thing with Jung, is that even when we're looking at archetypes, we can't get to the real archetype. What we're looking at is how that archetype, let's say, is playing out in our life. How is it appearing to us? All these internal processes, like sort of, that's what's important. Like, how they're sort of being projected, like it's a state of immanence and interiority that we're aiming for. So what I'm saying is that for Buddhism and Jung, getting rid of that object of negation, getting rid of this idea of an inherent existent world, inherent existent self, puts us within our mind, within karma, so to speak, within how we're projecting things. This allows us to sort of regain our freedom or responsibility, that we be able to sort of heal ourselves and create the life we want to live. That's how I would sort of, I hope that, Christine, is an okay answer before we start here. Anyway, we can come back to that. If that's answered or not answered, you can let me know by email or talk later. We're going to have a question and answer class in a couple classes where we're going to do a recap of everything that we've been studying, so we can talk about that as well then. So But I'll leave it there for now, and we'll get right sort of into my notes about the teacher here, role of the teacher. Okay, and then there's one part of the text I actually just want to read verbatim because I think it's so good. So the role of a teacher here. So Rob Preece says, we enter into the relationship with a mentor. We become like an apprentice to a master. Once this fertile ground has been, like the first part of the chapter of the book, is the idea of creating a proper vessel, creating a proper ground for this self-education of the path. So once we've sort of established a ground for ourselves, fertile ground, a good container, then we meet our master and become an apprentice. So to gain awareness of our inner wisdom, we need a teacher's guidance. Our limited insight into our own nature is the human condition that we find ourselves in, and it leads to confusion and suffering. So our fundamental ignorance of this nature of reality causes an endless circle of suffering of samsara, which we know. So the teacher or master can offer us the way to break free of this cycle of suffering. So in Tantra, the guru or the teacher is the root of the path, the source of realization, the source of liberation from samsara. The practice of guru yoga, or unifying our mind with the guru's mind, is where we equate the guru with Buddha. And without this, we can't proceed. This is an important role. So it's important to examine this closely. When a teacher touches a student deeply, it is an overwhelming experience. We become aware of our potential in the way we never recognized previously. The teacher has opened our eyes, and we see him or her as a fundamental to this experience, so opening of experience to this sort of greater spiritual reality. And it becomes a catalyst to awaken our inner qualities that were at this time unconscious. So we can, just taking this from there, of course, we can talk more and more about the guru being the sort of source of the path and the center of the path of Tantra. But like Rob Preece says, is that when we sort of prepare a fertile ground, get interested in Dharma and sort of walking this journey or path to enlightenment, when we meet the teachers, like everything comes together. You know, our first contact with our teacher, we have a bunch of different teachers, but in particular, when we find our main teachers, like everything clicks. And then what's interesting is that, just like he says, we become aware of our potential in a way we never recognized previously. It's like when we meet our teacher, all of a sudden, all these inner qualities within ourselves start to become available and accessible to us, start to become manifest. We start to see our life in a different way than we'd ever seen before. A lot of our unconscious sort of gifts and qualities and wisdom start becoming activated, as well as unconsciously a lot of our issues as well, right? So our inner wisdom here that we're trying to develop in Buddhism is unconscious. So then what's interesting is that once we meet our inner guru, whoops, got my class there. Once we meet our teacher, this this sort of inner wisdom that's unconscious starts to become activated. And then what's interesting, he says our inner archetype or guru then gets projected onto our outer guru or teacher. So this is sort of a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. Obviously, we have a lot of unconscious problems when we start to project onto someone else. But then at the same way, by projecting consciously and unconsciously our own inner wisdom onto this master, our inner wisdom becomes activated or deployed. It's like starting an engine. It actually starts to become awakened. So this actually really puts us onto the path in the first place, sort of in the first real way. So Jung, in his writing, Rob Preece has talked a lot about the archetype of the wise man or the wise woman, which is we find in all sort of stories around the world and different myths. Of course, you know, you can have it like the wise old lady, almost in a fairy tale, that gives you, you know, like sort of the wise witch or something, the wise elder that gives you teachings or wisdom or even medicine, or the figure we know like the wise old monk, the hermit from the tarot cards at the top of the mountain. Someone like Yoda, you could say, in the Star Wars movies, this kind of archetype of the wise person. So this is the personification, sort of like the higher self, your higher true self, right, in the aspect of the teacher or guide. So this is sort of what gets activated, this archetype within us once we meet our teacher. Okay, and this is why it's always the source of all these stories and myths throughout the world of meeting your teacher, going on a journey, right, to sort of self-discovery. So what I like is Rob Preece here says that the teacher-disciple relationship is a relationship of a master craftsman to his or her apprentice or disciple. So it's a process of transformation in that way. So I like that. I've always felt that it's good to see it that way, is that Tantra is more of an art, not a science. And just like you're working to become an artist, you're going to art. Like now it's hard because when you go to art school, like university, we have great teachers and everything, and people have mentors when they go to art school. But let's say in the old days, if you're apprenticing, like let's say you're building in the Middle Ages a beautiful cathedral in your town, you have a whole guild of people that are doing it, and you end up apprenticing with them. Like you're learning with the master craftsman or craftswoman how to make the stained glass windows, how to become a stonemason, how to do the wrought iron, how to do the painting and this forth, and that you're building something beautiful together like a big cathedral. Or you're in a traditional society where you're learning, let's say, the dances, traditional sacred dances, and you have a dance teacher, a man or a woman that's teaching you, or a carver, let's say First Nations, where you're learning from your master how to carve masks that'll be used in certain ceremonies. It's a similar thing where you apprentice over years, right, with this person. And just like any of these great relationships, it's not just they're teaching you the material, like how to, let's say carve a mask. It's that whole person's wisdom, the whole embodiment of the craft is within them. That's what you're learning by just spending time. So oftentimes, people would live with their teacher and spend all this time with their teacher, eat with their teacher, it's sort of, take a nap together at the work site together. Like it's all these things of living with this person, because all these person's qualities as a master artist are going into you, that you end up becoming a similar kind of person. Now, again, you're a different person, and how you end up carving, let's say the mask can be a little bit different, but the point is you've internalized that whole lineage or embodied that whole lineage or example. So Tantra is the same thing with the teacher here. So Rob Preece says the Western alchemical tradition, you have a disciplined, contained experience of inner forces. Safely transmit the practice and teaching under the guidance of Tantra. So it's an oral guidance practicing Tantra, just like the oral guidance, and showing people how to be, again, master craftsworker, a master artist, master painter here, right? So it I'm just going to say, I remember where he was saying at one point that the teacher ends up being and sort of creating like a sacred container for you to do this work. So we can even see like a master craftsman would have this too, where they have like a work site and all their tools, and there's certain rituals that they do. Sometimes people even start with certain prayers or rituals to bless the work before they get started. So we have a whole safe container here, sort of a ritualized sacred universe to do the work and to learn this work from the teacher here, right? So Rob Preece says that the detailed knowledge and understanding the performance of ritual practice in Tantra, he says, is impossible to get without a physical teacher. So this is all these sort of details you can't just get out of a TikTok video or out of a book. You have to be with the teacher through time to pick up all the little details, all the little tricks of the trade, so to speak, all the wisdom where, like how to internalize certain rules, right? Like might say do things like this in the text, but then if you do it that way, it doesn't really work. You have to jimmy it or change it a little bit in practice. That's why you have a teacher to show you all these things, right? We always do this at work, because I work as a flight attendant, old band flight attendant here, and you show the new flight attendants all the tricks on how to do things that they never teach you in training, right? So on the line, you have to sort of show people how to do these things, just like any job, where you, like, let's say you're sort of a veteran nurse at the hospital. You show the new nurses how to, to do the rounds and take care of people, what works, what doesn't, all the little tricks. It's the same thing. So Rob Preece says the outer guru is the model or example to inspire the apprentice into believing um, of the possible effects of the practice by embodying certain qualities. So the guru ends up being the example of the finished product in a lot of ways. Like, you will become a master craftsman or craftswoman like me. You'll become a master medicine person like me, right? So they end up showing it's possible, and they show the whole I guess, sort of process for becoming a teacher. So the apprentice themselves can one day teach, right? So, but there are limitations, Rob Preece says. The guru is not omnipotent. They can only guide to liberation through their insight and example. They can't make you enlightened otherwise. If they could, Buddha would have done that in the first place. So we then go on to talk about the three levels of the guru: the outer, inner, and secret guru. So the outer guru is the partly expression of the archetype, the need to embody the inner guru through projection. Okay, so this is interesting, the projection or transference, like embodying a father and mother to transfer this inner quality. So the outer guru here, we've talked about this in the class there with on the Lama Yeshe text. So of course, this is the physical person, the physical teacher that you end up studying with. But at the same time, they, by taking this teaching role, they end up sort of embodying this archetype of the master to you. Okay, so what they end up doing is they end up externalizing your own inner wisdom. They become the externalization, the outer guru of the inner guru, of your inner wisdom, your inner mind, your inner capacity to self-realize, right? So in a lot of ways, what this is in psychoanalysis, this is what they call transference. Now, there's good transfers and bad transfers, just like you learn in therapy, but it's a lot like, for instance, when you're transferring being like a quote unquote father or mother figure to someone, like someone's friend of yours is sick and you go over and take care of them and make them dinner or something like that and take care of them. And you're expressing or transferring these qualities of being, let's say, a mother or a father or a caretaker to that person. And they can even countertransfer in the sense that they end up seeing you almost like a motherly or fatherly figure here, right? So in a lot of ways, that's what the outer guru is supposed to be doing here. Okay, so then we are unable to consciously experience the qualities of our Buddha nature fully, so they are constellated through projection. So the teacher with integrity sees this and gives this back to the student. So of course, what we want in this case is a healthy form of transference, not a bad unconscious form of transference. So a teacher with that has realizations and integrity, sort of a peer example or peer teacher, will allow you to sort of see them as a personification of enlightened being or personification of your inner wisdom. But if they're a real teacher, they end up giving you back that power. But that's the key, is they allow that transference, but then at the same time they reflect it back to say that, oh, you're doing this to me, and you're doing this for your own benefit. It's not about me. I'm just like a mirror for you to self-recognize, your own inner wisdom and Buddha nature, right? I'm just showing you, reflecting you something you already have, someone you already are, right? So this is the way that teacher awakens the student's inner potential through sort of this process, which is a process of empowerment, one that has to be free and unconditional, obviously pure, unconditional, without sort of any agendas, right? The only agenda the teacher should have is just to empower the student to self-realize. Okay. To grow, the student has to bring back the outer guru into the psyche to stabilize the inner guru. Okay. So this is done with the practice of guru yoga. So it's interesting. What he's saying is that in the end, our practice of relating to the teacher is done in Tantric Buddhism through guru yoga, where we visualize the teacher and dissolve them into our hearts. That's the ritualized way of bringing our power back from the outer guru, our inner guru, to project onto the outer guru, and then to cycle back and dissolve within ourselves to activate our own inner guru at a deeper level, more and more and more as we progress. So this awakening of our inner guru then allows the disciples to stand in their own power and to become adepts, or real students. The outer teacher holds the vessel in which the disciple is being transformed, the alchemical vessel. They sort of hold the space for this process of alchemy to take place. So a good teacher allows students to express their own inner qualities and manifest these in the world. So the process of empowerment, this tantric process of this journey here, this educational journey, is positive and supportive. It allows the student to express their full potential, greater individuality, and greater autonomy. Okay. So then this inner authority of ourselves, the more we do this sort of our inner wisdom starts to increase, and we get more and more trust in ourselves, and even in our own wisdom and our own intuition here. So Rob Preece says, I'm just going to finish up here, just a couple more points here. So this relationship grows forward when the disciple draws back some of these projections and begins to experience the inner aspect of the guru for him or herself. This frees the student and teacher of idealization. So the whole point of this is to activate the inner guru. We have to activate the inner guru in and through the outer guru. So once we're able to more and more, I don't want to say grow out of the outer guru, but more and more recognize this frees up all the sort of unconscious clinging and issues and projections we have on the outer teacher. So what we want to always break down is this idea that our inner wisdom and Buddha nature is somehow external to us in the world or in another person. We have to see that what we're looking for is within us. It's always already been there, right? And so good teachers in a good tantric process allow us to sort of bend back to see this, allow us to self-discover. So the story I always like about this is Ajahn Chah was one of the great time masters of the 20th century, seen in the Theravada tradition as an enlightened being, as an arhat. And I would recommend any of his books or stories because they're so good. Ajahn Chah. I've got in the bookcase out there a little book of his sayings. I think I picked them up in Taiwan or something. All sayings and stories, and they are just so good because he was so funny. My first teacher, Gen Kelsing Tarchin, was a student of Ajahn Chah in the 1970s. So fortunate. He was such an incredible master. But anyway, where I'm going with this, I read somewhere once where he had some kind of teacher-student meeting or conference or something, and it might have been in Germany. I can't remember. This would have been again in the 1970s or the 80s or something like that. And it was going really well. It was all question and answer, people sharing stuff and maybe planning stuff or whatever. But anyway, at one point, one of his senior students stood up and said, I'd like to say something. And this is in front of everybody, in front of Ajahn Chah. And Ajahn was like, yeah, please go ahead. And then the guy spent like 10 minutes, like just tearing into Ajahn Chah, like accusing him all these things. And you're a bad person, and you're this and you're that. And of course, everyone's just like so squirming and awkward. It was like, oh my God. And of course, Ajahn Chah, being your head, is like completely impassive, just sits there and takes the whole thing. And then the guy's like, well, what do you think of that? And then Ajahn Chah, as an answer, is amazing. He says, I'm glad you said everything that you did. Maybe it's all true, whatever. Because the most important thing is, he said, you finding all flaws in me. Why this is important is I want you to see that what you're looking for is in you, not in me. Like, by seeing all the problems in me, you're going to have to bend back and see your own wisdom as being the real issue here. Like what you're looking for, you yourself are your own teacher. You yourself are your own source of enlightenment. You yourself are the path. It's not independent of you projected outwards. I don't have it to give it to you. You have it within yourself. You have to discover that. And I thought, wow, that's an amazing story that Ajahn Chah did that. But of course, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of Guru Yoga. That's what we're trying to do here. Okay, so the more we do this, Rob Preece says, the more this frees us from idealization and the more natural our relationship to our teacher becomes. He says it becomes more challenging at this point because it's less romantic, but it's not. It's more real and not awkward. This allows our guru and our teacher and ourselves to be more human, and this shows both our gifts and our flaws. So he sort of talks about this being sort of a great relief, getting to that point. And again, it's the idea that when we see our teacher as Buddha, for instance, it's to sort of see that we do this to bring about our own realization of our own Buddha nature, to see ourselves as Buddha, not that their teacher, this Buddhahood is external to us, something that we're trying to get, we're lacking, somehow we have to bridge this, get this. No, it's just a mirror for us to self-discover here. So the more we do this, the less romanticism we have in this, the less of the whole, without picking on George Lucas, less of the whole kind of Yoda complex. Like we end up seeing that the wise old man and wise old woman is within us here. So how do we access, the more we access the inner guru, how do we do this? Where does the path deepen here? And this is accessed through our practice of deity yoga, or practice with a deity. This is what leads us to a deeper understanding of our own inner wisdom, of the inner guru, but ultimately to the secret guru. So the inner clarity of our true nature is our secret guru, the sort of the main guru, the ultimate guru, so to speak. So the inner guru, we could say, is our relative guru. The secret guru is our ultimate guru. The more we experience these two senses of guru, we have more inner authority and more inner resourcefulness and more inner trust in and of ourselves. So he quotes Lama Yeshe saying, trust your inner knowledge wisdom. So the teacher, outer teacher's role is the catalyst to empower the disciple or the apprentice in the experience of the inner guru as our deity that we're practicing, our own inner wisdom in a lot of ways. The inner guru is archetypally manifested as a Buddha or deity. And this practice, the more we practice our deity yoga, this allows us to go deeper to our secret guru, right? To realize the inner clarity of our true nature, in other words, the emptiness of our own mind here. Okay, so I like this where he says, once the more we practice our deity here, this allows the disciple to turn inward and to take responsibility and trust his or her inner wisdom. The deity, for deity yoga, is the bridge to this happening. So through the outer guru giving us all the teachings and the empowerments and teaching us the rituals, we discover our inner guru in and through our practice of deity yoga, working with the Buddha. Ultimately, this discloses or reveals the emptiness of our own mind, our secret guru here. Okay, so the last thing is the idea that how this is all done is the teacher introduces us in Tantric Buddhism to the mandala of a deity and give us the empowerment and the rituals and teaches us all the practices, and that we maintain this mandala or maintain this through a practice of samaya, or our vows and commitments. So we end up seeing that the most important thing that we do in practicing Tantra is keeping all of our Tantric commitments, our vows and precepts. So we've talked about this before, like basically with our classes on karma and emptiness. Once we see everything is empty, we can create the world in and through our own karma. All Tantric vows is basically all these good habits and ritualistic practices that allow us karmically to project a purified universe, right? That's what we're doing. So that's our main practice, is all of our vows. Our vows are just sort of a systematized set of habits or rituals to maintain the purity of this mandala, that sort of allow the inner guru quality to continue as a continuum that ends up revealing the secret guru, right? That's why we say the word samaya. Samaya means secret. You could say intimacy, right? It's almost like a marriage or a commitment on that intimate level to someone, which is your teacher, but ultimately it's with yourself. It's you and the deity is you, right? So that's really what the meaning of samaya means, which is why we quote unquote don't break samaya. In other words, we don't forsake this. It's like we don't pollute, break, let go of our commitment to this whole process. It's like we don't quit this process of inner alchemy, right? Halfway turning lead into gold, we don't kind of quit. Okay, so Yeah, he says the inner awakening initiated by the guru stabilizes then and leads to a level of awareness present at all times as the inner resource of insight and inspiration. The student then becomes the vehicle for the deity to manifest in the world. The student ultimately and the deity become one. Why? Because they've always already become one on the secret deity level of the emptiness of their own minds. So the outer guru enabled greater autonomy in the student by stabilizing the inner guru in the aspect of the deity and makes possible the profound insight into the secret guru as the ultimate truth of emptiness or Dharmakaya. This is the alchemy of the path, right? You can see that this is the process of turning lead into gold, right? Starting with your deluded self in a world of suffering, meeting the teacher, them through the tantric practice of initiating you into your inner guru, finding your own inner wisdom, that this inner wisdom realizes your divine nature that's always already been there from the beginning. So that's it. I just wanted to read a couple little things here from his text. I wanted to read it in right from the book because I just think it's so good, where it's just a little bit of the pitfalls that we have to. This, of course, sounds good on paper what I'm telling you, but of course, as a path, it's a lot harder than that to realize here. And this is what I wanted to read right here. Quote, on page 32 of Rob Preece's book, second paragraph here. If there's any disruption of the essential trust in the guru-disciple relationship, the consequences can be painful and occasionally extremely psychologically disturbing. So I wanted to read this because I know some people read, or maybe a lot of people watch the video, might not have had access or read this book. So I wanted to leave this with people here. The hazards in the guru-disciple relationship are unfortunately present in the Tibetan Buddhist world, as they are in many other spiritual traditions. Many Westerners have become deeply involved in a relationship with the teacher, but a lack of understanding has often led to confusion. This confusion became particularly apparent recently as a result of inappropriate behavior of certain renowned teachers. This arose partly from the teachers denying their deficiencies and having unclear boundaries, but also from the naivete of the students. The fundamental question is whether we assume the guru to be enlightened and therefore not manifesting any personal flaws. Regrettably, there are unscrupulous teachers who do have personal needs and problems, which we overlook or deny to our cost. There is considerable ongoing debate regarding the traditional view of the guru-disciple relationship, and now more than ever, I may add, which asserts that seeing the guru as Buddha, impeccable and without failings, is vital to ripen the disciple's potential to attain the fruits of the path. This is reinforced by the admonition that to see faults in one's guru will result in karmic downfalls and future suffering for the disciple. Any faults in the teacher should be seen as the disciple's aberrations projected outside. The Tantric teachings insist this peer view should be held at all times to protect the disciple from accruing negative karma. However, underlying this is also the need to preserve the integrity, authority, and status of the teacher. This leads to a great deal of confusion when students begin to see evident flaws in teachers and would be folly to explain them away as the teachers' impure perception. The students' impure perception. Consequently, it's become necessary to cultivate a less dogmatic, more pragmatic view. A teacher may not be a perfect carrier of the projection, but this does not contradict the Tantric view that essentially the guru, an inner phenomenon projected outside, is Buddha. If we literalize this principle of the teacher as the embodiment of perfection, we're in the danger of blinding ourselves to the reality that most teachers are human and therefore not perfect. An individual can have deep insights into the nature of reality and still have human failings, a shadow which has not been fully eradicated. According to teachings on the 10 grounds or stages of Bodhisattva, until the final ground is reached, there are still subtle obscurations to full enlightenment that can manifest in flawed behavior. Believing without question that the outer guru is Buddha also traps the teacher in an unrealistic unconscious position. This can feed in the shadowy side of the guru's nature, inflating his own sense of omnipotence and power. The Dalai Lama has commented that too much deference harms the teacher because we never challenge him or her. When disciples become devoted to teachers, considerable power and authority is entrusted to them. While teachers' role is to support and empower disciples to discover their own potential, sometimes this doesn't happen. Some teachers become caught in a powerful position they've been endowed with and are unaware of their own desire for power and authority. They may begin to enjoy their power too much and take advantage of it for their own needs. This keeps their disciples disempowered and ultimately does not allow growth and individual responsibility to emerge. Teachers may be unconsciously afraid to empower the disciples and allow them to gain a sense of their own authority and autonomy. They may try to hold on to their disciples, when to generally empower them could lead them to leaving to engage in their own journey. Devoted disciples may also be caught in unconscious habits that are not addressed and become destructive. Sometimes reluctance to take personal responsibilities, like a struggle to separate from a perfect parent who solves all of our problems. It's not uncommon for disciples to project many of their childhood needs for this perfect parent onto their teacher. This can lead to unconscious confusion from both sides, making a perpetually infantilizing and dependent relationship. If there's a sexual dimension to this relationship, this can be very hazardous. Disciples may project sexual fantasies, and the teacher may take advantage of them to satisfy his or her own needs. Regrettably, this does occasionally occur when teachers are unable to keep their boundaries clearly. When this happens, it is also evident that the disciples involved have suffered sexual abuse of some form in childhood. A romantic view of Eastern teachers creates a mystification around their qualities and abilities that can have serious consequences. All too frequently, those who enter the role of devotee have no objectivity around the relationship. Romantic, idealized falling in love with a teacher can be a wonderfully opening and inspiring experience, but can also be fraught with confusion and potential for abuse. Absence of the guru role in our own culture tends to make us naive about the shadowy side of guru-disciple relationship. And disillusion may play a significant part in waking us up to the illusion we can create around a teacher. Disappointment, however, helps us separate psychologically from a teacher so we can take more responsibility for our own journey, even while we maintain this relationship. Okay, I thought that was good to share. And just this last one, I think I'll just read here. It says, while we need a relationship to someone who can awaken us to our inner nature, the dangers of placing ourselves too willingly in the power of a teacher must be recognized. In meeting someone who becomes a teacher or guru, the student places an inner power and wisdom into the person's hands. This leaves the disciple vulnerable as he or she trusts the teacher's integrity to use that power and wisdom skillfully. The Dalai Lama has clearly expressed in recent years that Westerners who engage in such a relationship should take time and check a teacher carefully before making a commitment. When the projected idealization of a teacher is made conscious, we're able to clearly see the qualities and failings of a teacher. We're also able to develop a greater autonomy in our own spiritual journey and suffer less from the inconsistencies that arise from an idealized projection onto a fallible teacher. So that's the other side to it, which is that's excellent advice. And again, Alexander Berzin has that book, I think it's called Wise Teacher, Wise Student, which carries on with a lot of this discussion. So there's a great line in famous psychoanalyst and neo-Freudian Jacques Lacan where he said, real psychoanalytic therapy works only through what he calls I think it's a transparent desire of the analyst. In other words, you have to be a complete, transparent mirror without an agenda for the person you're trying to help. So they can see their own selves in that relationship. That's why you have to be, as a teacher, okay, maybe not enlightened, but just about the sense that you can't have a personal agenda here. You have to just be an emptiness or a mirror from which people discover themselves, their own emptiness, their own karma, their own journey. And what happens is if you're not in personal mirror, if you have what Jacques Lacan says, the dangers of countertransference, where you as a teacher start accepting people's projections onto you and projecting back onto them, that's where you get all these unconscious issues and people get hurt. Good teachers are ones that have seen emptiness directly or are trying to see emptiness directly or bring that sense of emptiness to their relationship with their students. So my friend Bruce, I would give him compliments. I'd say, you're an amazing teacher, thank you so much. And he'd say, well, I don't think any of that's true. It's just all your mind. But if this helps you in your path, then that's good. So that's the way I like to look at that. Okay, so that's all I want to say here is we're wrapping up. Any quick questions? Again, we've got a question and answer session within a couple classes, not next week, but the week after, so we can go into depth about this stuff. But Christine, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, could you give me a spelling for Azun Chan's name,
Oh,
please?
Ajahn Chan. So, oh my goodness. So it's Ajahn, Ajahn, and then Chan, Chan, who is a Thai master, Ajahn Chan. Ajahn means, I think, just in Thai teacher, right? So Ajahn Chan. So he's got a bunch of books. There's probably videos of him, and he's just absolutely amazing. But I've always remembered that advice he gave a student, which is because usually that goes to show that he was an arhat and seed emptiness. So he didn't take any of that personally. Like you think if you have a big teacher-student conference and one student stands up and completely rips you apart and humiliates you in front of everyone else, most people would fight back or what. But the fact that he was like, not only is this good, but this is allowing you to rediscover your own power in doing this by criticizing me. Then you see that he, I'm not saying he saw emptiness. I don't know. I don't see people who've seen emptiness, but he gives a good demonstration of what that would be like to be emptiness and allow that person to self-discover there.
Yeah,
okay,
thanks.
so let's.
Yeah. I've made friends with a Thai monk, and so he and I are trying to share ideas, and this helps me. So thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Excellent. Okay, so let's just take a moment here to dedicate this, all of our practice today. So by blessings of all the gurus and all the Buddhas and light beings, the truth of karma, power of pure spirit intention. So we can think truth of karma being the truth of cause and effect. All of our projections, power of pure spirit intention and bodhicitta. May all of our dharma wishes be fulfilled and all sentient beings reach awakening. Okay, thank you. I'll just turn this off here. So